Zoning Commission work session in the Assembly Chambers, Wednesday, September 10th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Ms. Frazier? Mr. Neff?
Here.
Mr. Dagan?
Present.
Ms. Craig?
Here.
Ms. Williamson?
Here.
Mr. Cleary? And Mr. Mangini. You have a quorum?
Okay, thank you. Citizen comments. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. To make comments, call the local number at 907-486-3231 or toll-free number at 855-492-9202. Comments are for general topics only.
Hello, my name is Sandra West, and I'm just interested in all what's going on around town. I looked through some of the packet, and I was interested in seeing the short-term rental clarification. Just looks, I don't know how many people are going to memorize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it's there, and it looks clearer. So I thought that was good. I also was talking to Bronwyn a little bit, and I am excited about the borough going forward with potentially changing, clarifying, maybe even loosening some of the parking requirements. We all walk to Crab Fest. It's hard to get a parking spot up close, and I think I'm all for walking and keeping things open and not necessarily too much parking spaces, and restricting certain building due to parking, restricting some economic businesses due to parking restrictions. So just want to say I'm in favor of that. And also, good job, everybody. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sandra. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no comments, we will move on to our packet review or items for discussion.
Items for discussion.
Sorry, I'll try to read what's right in front of my nose for once. Okay. Amending various sections of Kodiak Island Borough Code Title 17 in relation to short-term rental related definitions. Short-term rental packet PDF. Okay, Chris, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
There. Okay.
Chris French, Community Development Director. So based on the last work session we had with the commission, we discussed potential changes to the code related to definitions that are related to uses that are similar or exactly the same as what we would consider a short-term rental. And that's what you have before you. This is in ordinance form, or in this case, a resolution form for the commission or ordinance. And it would be also would be similar to what we would take forward to the commission for a public hearing, and what we would eventually take as an ordinance to the assembly for a code amendment. And so this, further refines sections of the code, primarily definitions related to short-term rental type uses. And I'm not going to go through all of that, but there was some discussion at the last work session regarding changes that would impact the current boarding house definition, including that into the whole short-term rental definition. As we talked about at the last meeting, if you look on page 4 of 8, 4 of 8, or I guess it's 7 of 165, technically, of your packet, but it's 4 of 8 of the draft ordinance that you have before you. That particular definition is what we talked about at the last meeting regarding defining short-term rental and then the potential uses that listed under short-term rental. And if you remember, we had some discussion regarding a couple things, the definition of guest room and how it applies to certain uses like hotels and motels and things like that, but also how it would apply to boarding houses in particular. And that the current definition of boarding house says it's up to 5 rooms, but not to exceed 15 people. It talks about sleeping rooms in that definition, but it doesn't really, the code does not define sleeping rooms. In addition, when you look at the definition of guest room, it includes boarding houses in its listing, so there is a little confusion there between, is it a guest room in a boarding house, or is it a sleeping room in the boarding house? So I think one of the things I wanted to get some feedback from the commission tonight is, does the commission want us to go with guest room? The idea of guest room, though, limits it to no more than 2 people per guest room. That's currently what's in the code today. If you use that for boarding house, then you're effectively changing that current definition, which allows up to 15 people in 5 rooms. In other words, maybe 3 people per room potentially. And we could define sleeping room and have that apply to boarding house and have guest rooms apply to all the other types of short-term rentals. So there's some options there. So I'm looking for some input from the commission tonight to let me know which way you want to go in that. We can look at those definitions a little more closely and come back to the next work session and hopefully refine that further, and maybe we'll be ready to go after that for a public hearing. So what do you all think about sleeping room, guest room, how it applies to the boarding house definition? And in the new definition, boarding house would fall under, let me see here, which one that is. That would be STR2 under that definition of short-term rental. Would be basically the same use as what we have as a boarding house today.
I like.
Yeah,
the
go
idea
ahead.
Sorry, I like the idea of sticking with the 1 to 2 people.
2 people per room and using guest room then?
Yes.
Okay.
That seems reasonable.
I'll play the contrarian. I would say 3 because we had a maximum number of 15. And so if we limit ourselves to that 1 or 2, we wouldn't be able to get to that maximization of 15.
Yeah, you would be changing the definition of currently what's called boarding house to be no more than 10 people. Because if it's 5 rooms, it caps at, because the reason we cap at 5 rooms for uses like boarding houses and bed and breakfast is because when you hit 6, the definition of hotel kicks in at 6 rooms. And so that's why we cap it at 5. However, the definitions in the code, the guest room definition says no more than 2 people. It says 15 people directly in the boarding house definition. It does talk about their rooms being sleeping rooms, but the code really doesn't define that. So we could define sleeping room that could allow up to 3 people, have it apply only to really a boarding house, because that's the only other definition. That's the only definition of the code that actually even mentions sleeping room, really. Corey,
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to keep it sleeping rooms so we can have the 3 people specialized for the boarding rooms, because we need to keep as much rental capacity as available, I believe, in our community right now. And
Mr. Chair, I think you have someone had her hand up.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to tell you guys that we have no boarding houses in Kodiak right now. And I think that was a question last time, was how many boarding houses did we have? And we don't have any. Trident demolished theirs, and then Silver Bay opted not to do a boarding house.
No legal boarding houses functioning that way. There's places that are, I didn't know that, because I do know of at least one place that, at least a few years back, they were renting out, acting like a boarding house kind of thing. Where do we delineate between a boarding house and functioning as a boarding house? I mean, is it going to be whether the R2 or 3 or?
Yeah, I mean, the boarding house is limited. If you look in the code section, it's limited to basically like your R3 zones, and then there's also
Okay.
ability to get conditional use permit. So it limits them to higher level zones that are pretty much allow multifamily type uses. I would say that the idea of a boarding house is certainly appropriate. That type of use, it exists in the building code, exists in our code. How we use the term boarding house may not be what people use it on the street or what they call it in the community. I might be thinking of a boarding house about what it was like, 60 years ago or something. But It is a use that exists both in the building code and in our current zoning code. And again, it's for renting of rooms. It's not the same as a bed and breakfast, which has an operator and so on, and it does limit the number of people per room. So the boarding house is a little more flexible in that regard. And our current definition of boarding house says remember we talked this before, it talks about week-to-week rent and not day-to-day. I mean, week-to-week rent's still a short-term rental because it's less than 30 days. So,
Okay. Yeah, so I do remember there was one guy who had a trailer in one of those trailer parks there near the beach. Can't remember what the name of the trailer park is. What he had, I think his whole income was renting rooms in his trailer, and he had 2 or 3 people in a room in this little trailer, and couches, and quite a few people he would rent to. And there's other places like that, but evidently those wouldn't be allowed anymore according to code, or maybe never were allowed. And
depends on what the zoning was of the property. If it was zoned for a boarding house, then it probably would have been allowed. But, we didn't have any that actually hadn't received, that we knew of, that had active zoning compliance permits on them that they were legal that way.
yeah,
The other thing I will say about the number of people per a guest room or even a sleeping room, it all depends also on the building code. So whatever we have in the zoning code, the building code also factors into that. And the building code also has restrictions on how many people can be in rooms, certainly in bedrooms. It requires you to have a window for exit, that kind of emergency exits. Those kind of things happen in there. So I will say, no matter what we put in the zoning code, the building code still could further restrict how many people who could be in either a guest room or a sleeping room.
well, to me, I'm thinking that we have a need for boarding houses because there's people that are operating that way that aren't going to really be able to do that legally, or aren't really legally doing it already. So this may if we can enforce that, may allow an opportunity for people to, maybe I'll invest in a boarding house for my retirement business. Craig, go ahead. You have something to say?
Yes, thank you. Now, from a public safety and fire safety concern, I definitely would like to see that number reduced in those sleeping quarters because of that very threat that you mentioned. However, I do agree that we need to maintain our capacity for boarding our transient workforce that come in to help with our processing. I definitely would like to see there to be transparency and the illicitness go away. And that's where if we're aligning with the building code appropriately, I think that we give ourselves a better chance to then go after enforcement for those properties that are fire hazards and disasters waiting to happen for our community. So if that's worth anything, I'd like to see there to be the parallelness in the code, building and planning and zoning commission.
So kind of what I'm hearing is, it sounds like we want to kind of keep the boarding house definition similar to what it is today, just clean it up with regards to it could be day-to-day because it's under 30 days typically, these type of rents. It doesn't mean you couldn't have a boarding house that could allow people to stay more than 30 days. You potentially could. It doesn't mean it has to be under 30 days. It could be under 30 days. We could, as part of this, then create the sleeping room definition, which is actually specifically listed in the current boarding house definition. There actually is a sleeping room definition in the building code, just like there's a guest room definition. So we can tailor a sleeping room definition that fits the 3 people to a sleeping room. Of course, that implies building code allows it, of course, and put that in the code. Have that apply really only to boarding houses, which is really all it applies to today, and do that.
I just thought of something. From what I was told, these canneries are operating their apartments like the Trident Cannery downtown. Excuse me, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Strike that comment. I think I misspoke. I have heard that some apartments owned by some canneries have more than have 3 people in a room is what they're allowing already. So are they calling themselves boarding houses? Have you aware?
I mean, it depends on, are these actually dwelling units, and then that, and therefore, yeah, you can have you could have certainly more than 2 people in a dwelling unit.
Okay,
What the code's talking about is really, is in terms of a boarding house, is an actual bedroom or sleeping room, as they're calling it, in terms of having not more than 3 people in the boarding house's sleeping room.
yeah. I was
If it's a
only-
dwelling unit,
okay.
I mean, a lot of that depends on how many bedrooms you have, how big it is, and most of that's handled by the building code, not the zoning code.
I was aware of one, there was one county, I don't know if they still are, that used to have bunkhouses up above. It was, I would say it was a boarding house situation, but.
And then when the code looks at it, if it's more than 5 rooms, so if it's like 6 rooms or larger, then it starts looking at it as if it's a hotel. And of course, that falls under commercial code, under the IBC, so, which would be different standards in terms of what the occupancy would be than if it was under the residential code.
So I have a question for SEMA, since you're here. Have we been taxing have we ever tried taxing, like, when counties have used their facilities for
So
bunkhouses?
that's where I was saying, the old Trident building before, is it North Pacific bought it? They had a boarding house, and it was just one big building where people slept. And that, they demolished that before they sold it. Cherry King, those apartments are part of their deal, and so that is, those are not boarding houses, because those are apartments. And then Silver Bay tried to do a boarding house type thing in their properties down by Hannah House Restaurant. Is it Hannah House? Yeah, but they ended up buying the motel instead. And so nobody has a boarding house. We do not assess any boarding houses right now.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, I think you,
Any other things that was the one outstanding thing that we needed to research for you and kind of discuss tonight for this? Anything else in this particular draft code amendment that you feel you want us to look at more closely? Okay, then we will work on the sleeping room definition and also revise that boarding house definition in this proposal, bring it back to the next work session. Hopefully, we'll have more of a full commission meet here, so that you all can, I don't think any of you all want to vote on, or want to say, send it on to the hearing yet until you have more folks here, so, and I certainly understand that. So we'll, again, have a work session on this next month, and hopefully, we'll be at a point where the commission's ready for it to go on to a public hearing.
that'll be fine, I'm sure, either way. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the staff report packet. Chris?
Okay. So what you have before you, and I'm not gonna talk about it a lot tonight, because we're gonna work on this more, starting at the next, work session. But I just wanted to get the idea out to you all, and you can take, this, zoning practice document home that talks about, having more, creating staff reports that are a little more, as they say, with pizzazz, but it's really all about readability and things like that, and it's more, easier to comprehend what's going on and summarize requirements and things like that. So you have that zoning practice document from the American Planning Association as part of your packet tonight. There are some questions that I attached to here, and as well as an example staff report that we've done before on a variance case that some of the commissioners may remember. And I had just a document attached to this that goes over, it summarizes some of the things that come out of that zoning practice for staff reports, and so I just maybe asked the commission to kind of look over some of that before our next work session, and then we'll delve into that a little bit more detailed, and maybe go through an example or two staff report and talk about where we might want to fix things. I would also ask that, think about the staff reports you've remembered reading in the past and looking over. Were there things that you had concerns about that weren't clear, that you felt the formatting made it easy to hard to understand or confusing? Make some notes on those and bring them for the next work session, and we can go through those with you as well, and try to come up with a format that hopefully works well for the commission and will work well moving forward. We also would like it to be easy for the public to read as well, since these are public documents, not just documents for the commission.
All right, thank you, Chris. Anybody have any comments on there? On anything already? No? Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to our packet review. Capital, the first thing on the agenda there is the CIP list packet. Do you have anything, Chris?
Brahman will cover that for you.
Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. So before you is the resolution for FY 2026-02. This is for this year's capital improvements list that runs for the next 5. This is a recommendation to the Assembly, and the Assembly then recommends this to the state legislator who rallies for certain projects on the list. At last month's meeting, you asked us to bring it back so that the missing commissioners could weigh in on the priority list itself. As of right now, I think these are the same commissioners minus 1 maybe from last month. So am I going to have any direction tonight on where we're moving things to? This would be the time to talk about it.
Any discussion, Craig?
Yes, as they are not present, I'd say we let the list ride as it is, with one exception. I was sitting in on the board for the Fire District, Service District 1, and there may be some benefit to moving up their request to the top 10, only because of grant writing considerations. And so I would propose that we bump up the request on the list, which I think it was down around 15, to bump it up to number 9 and slip everything down. And this is only for the purposes of grant writing, not that they would do for a different grant. It is not for funding from the CIP to the state. Thank you.
Yes, Bronwyn.
I have a follow-up question for that. If the consensus ends up being that you guys want to move project number 15 into number 9, am I shifting all projects down, or are we swapping number 9 with number 15? What's the proposal?
I would suggest that we slip everything down.
Okay,
One.
so number 15 goes into number 9, 9 into 10, and so on?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, that's if the commission is agreeable. And the only reason for that is for the purposes of their grant writing, so that they can reference it to our CIP list, saying that we are on the CIP list. This is a priority for our borough, and thus they would be a higher candidate for selection in funding from different funding sources. There is a chairman from the commission, from that board, that is here tonight and can speak to those details if you would like. It's just if we need more information or clarification.
I think we're okay with discussing it here still. Anybody else want to discuss, or anybody else would like to get any more information or discuss this further? What do you think of the proposal here?
I think that's a good proposal. I was actually reading that pickens paper that we had, and I was actually thinking something similar, moving that up.
Okay.
So I agree with that.
Do you have any problem with that, Athenas? No, I don't have a problem with it.
So everyone's in agreement that we're going to move number 15 into number 9 and everything gets shifted down 1? Okay.
Yes.
I do want to point out that for the purposes of that grant, they won't be referencing your document, just so we know. This is just a recommendation to the Assembly. The Assembly's is the final, just so we're all clear, so we understand what documents we're looking at
Yes.
here in a couple months. They are going to be different.
So I understand that. I know that we still have a process that must continue, and that the Borough Assembly can choose to reorganize the list accordingly. As to the point of having the having the harbor being bumped up to like number 2 or number 1. But for the purposes of that grant writing for that part of our organization, I'm suggesting that maybe the Borough Assembly might be in alignment with some of our thinking. And while this is an academic process, it could potentially be filled with funding from the state, should the state come into a windfall of economic means.
Sure, sure. I just wanted everyone to be clear that your document might look different here in a month or two when the assembly rearranges or does their own priority.
And I fully understand that. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, we're going to move on to case number 25-008, request variance on parking to allow 3 on-site parking spaces, varying 2 parking spaces off-site. Case number 25-008. Got anything for us, Chris?
Yes, the applicant has requested that this case be moved to the October regular meeting. So the motion in your packet for next week will be moved to postpone it to the October regular meeting. That's because the applicant did change their request, and so we've already done new notice and everything for it, so the commission couldn't really act on that anyway since it's changed. So the postponement has been requested because of that change to the application. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer as much as I can. I don't know if I can answer exactly why things changed, but I can tell you that they have.
I just have one question for, well, anybody else have any questions? No? I just have one because we had a comment today on parking and off-street parking and that sort of thing for businesses allowing more parking. Have you guys ever got any specific complaints or comments from businesses about, hey, can you allow more parking for us? Or just, do you guys get that kind of thing occasionally in the department?
I haven't gotten complaints about it. I mean, I've had, people certainly have questions about it and may have had some concerns that they felt that it was too much, but I really haven't received complaints. Now, we did receive, when we had our housing and land use open house meeting, we did get some comments about looking at the parking regulations, but I think that's more holistically, not for like one particular use, but it was just looking at it and seeing if we can modernize it for certain uses. Like with our code, we're missing certain uses that are in other people's codes, and the same thing would be the case for parking, and then also to look at generally the amounts of parking that are needed, and that's something that we have heard, but nothing that's specific to any one particular use.
No businesses or anything that said, hey, I need more parking or?
Not
Yeah.
that anybody has came to us and said they needed more parking.
Yeah.
It's been, that's what the requirement is, and kind of like that, and concerned that it might have been a little too high, but no one has given us really complaints. But we have heard the comment from people that your parking requirement requires too much parking, and it's more of a general sense, and have asked that it be looked at. So that will be something, I think, there'll be some discussion, I think, about that in the comprehensive plan update to look at the parking. And again, it's more of a holistic thing and not so much any one or two particular uses. It would just be overall look at it and try to modernize that section of code.
All right, thank you, Chris. All right, seeing no further discussion on that, we will move on to the next item. Case number 25-003, requests Title 18 land disposal for lease of fairgrounds. Chris?
Yes. So we received an administrative application from the manager's office, borough manager's office, regarding this request for review of a land disposal for a land disposal by negotiated lease. The primary purpose of that for the commission's role in that is really to determine whether, to make the determination whether there's a public purpose for the property. Staff and our recommendation that there really isn't a public purpose for it beyond what it's currently being used for. And so the recommendation is to pass a recommendation on to the assembly that there isn't a public purpose for it, and that that the disposal should go forward and for review by the assembly.
Thank you. Any comments? Great.
Thank you. So it was a 55-year lease. Will it be again another?
It's I believe the 25-year lease is what's proposed.
So we're dialing down. That's good. I'm
The
glad.
55, I will say this, the 55-year lease was not done by the borough. That was done by the state.
State,
State
yes.
of Alaska did that, and then, of course, the borough inherited that when they received the property.
Good. So in your assessment, is a 25-year lease wise, or should it be on a tighter
Well, I'm
time
not, our review is not for that. Our review is for whether the property should go forward with the disposal. It'll be up to the assembly to determine whether they felt that the actual lease agreement is appropriate or not, but it's not really for the commission to weigh in on that. What the commission weighs in on is there a public purpose for this property or not? And that's part of your review and part of the disposal. But the assembly makes the assembly makes two actions, whether it can be disposed of, and then also accepting the lease agreement and then directing the manager to execute that.
So I guess I need a point of clarification. When we say disposal, we are saying that we're not getting rid of it as in selling it. We're talking about a lease here of this property.
So we have land disposals by lease, we have land disposals for sale, and so that's a different process. We're through the lease process.
Yes.
And in this case, it's negotiated lease, and that's actually also spelled out in Title 18 as well.
Excellent. That's what I wanted to know, because at the end of the day, I would want to see the borough retain this property. If we're disposing of it by lease, that means that we still have the option in the future to retain this property or reuse it for something else.
True.
And
Yeah,
thus
that's true.
the lease allows us that opportunity to revisit that for some need that may exist that we can't conceive of at this time.
Correct. So the application that we received is for a disposal by lease, so not for a disposal for sale.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Any other comments?
And I think when, I could be wrong, but when there were caretakers out there at the lake.
Yeah, I'm all for it myself. Having my kids in 4-H over the years and been to the fair, it's definitely a lot of fun, and it serves the community quite a bit as it's been going, and as community development has noted, there isn't much purpose for it otherwise. So yeah, I think we're pretty much affirmative there. So
It's all on the same property. I think that, I don't know if it's like subletted, is that what you call it, to the sublease to the racetrack? But for that reason alone, I mean, I enjoy the fair and having the fair, so I like the idea of it.
Yeah, the lease area is outlined in your staff report, and it is for, again, a portion of the property, not for the full property, and it does include where the racetrack is.
But the racetrack does not have their own lease. Their lease is with the fair.
all right, so no further discussion. We'll move on to our next item.
Chair, a moment of point
Oh.
of observation. Seema, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to tell you guys that the assembly has voted in this as a community purpose exemption. So, you know, it's been a part of this land disposal for a long time. And it's something that the assembly has voted in. It's a assembly appointed exemption, so go forward. But I just wanted to let you guys know that that's on that property also.
Thank you, Seema. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll move on to our next item. Case number 26-004, amending various sections of the Kodiak Island Borough Code, Title 17, zoning related to child care facilities. You got a report for us, Chris?
Yes, and I know we've gone through this quite a bit at work sessions, so I won't give you the full presentation that I will give you at the public hearing. But this is kind of like a combination of what the commission has done for the assisted living residents amendment, and then also for the pet-related use amendment. Similar to the pet-related use amendment, we have allowances for what they call daycare services in the code, but they're in zoning districts that we have very few of, and then they're not in other zoning districts that some people might say are higher level commercial zones or whatever. And also, like the assisted living home definition or use, it's licensed by the state of Alaska. We have several licensed facilities within the borough, and the vast majority of those current licensed facilities are not in any of the zoning districts that allow daycare services. So very similar to assisted living homes or assisted living facilities. So what this definition does, it creates definitions of the various child care facilities that are as defined by the state of Alaska in their license requirements. It lists where those are allowed in the code as a use of right, and some of those match up with where we have, say, in-home facilities in the borough versus where we might have, or we have child care centers, which are larger facilities. So it does match up with those zones. I will say that amendment also factors in the two similar use determinations that were made with regarding schools in R2 zones. So it factors that in to the amendment. It provides a parking requirement for the use as well. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. I didn't go in full detail, which I will do more at the public hearing.
Any comments? Well, I think we all looked at this pretty close. I think we're good with everything there.
Okay.
All right, seeing no comments, old business, no old business, new business, no new business. Reports, meeting schedule. The next scheduled regular meeting is on Wednesday, September 17th at 6:30 PM in the Assembly Chambers. Next scheduled work session is on Wednesday, October 6th at 6:30 PM in the Assembly Chambers. Looks like there's no abbreviated and final plats, no communications. Well, do we have, okay, planning and zoning results letter. Do we have any abbreviated and final approvals or subdivisions or?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any planning and zoning case result letters?
No, just for the cases that you've reviewed
Oh, okay.
already. So,
All right, staff comments.
just a few things. One, I wanted to give you a couple updates. So I think the last time we talked last month, I mentioned that the River Focus presentation to the Assembly at a work session was going to be, I think, September 11th. That was moved to September 25th. So at the September 25th work session, they'll be giving their presentation on the hydrology and hydraulic study that they conducted for Sergeant Creek and Russian River. And if you are interested in that, please feel free to attend. In addition, for the hazard mitigation plan, we did have a couple additional adoptions by cities within the borough. The city of Kodiak has adopted it, as well as the city of Uzinki. We only have 2 cities that are still outstanding to adopt the hazard mitigation plan. I think, as I mentioned last month, the FEMA has adopted the plan, and any approvals by the additional cities get transmitted to the city, or excuse me, to the state of Alaska, which I have done, and then they will forward them on to FEMA to update their records, and then that plan will become effective for those communities who have voted for it. And also, October 8th, we're going to have an open house for the next elements of the comprehensive plan, which is parks, recreation, open space, trails. That'll be in this room on October 8th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it's an open house, so feel free to come anytime during that time period. There'll be surveys, there'll be some map exercises, things like that for people to fill out. We also have the ability to talk to staff and provide comments regarding park and recreational uses. We also have currently on the website for Plan 2045, and I'll mention again, and I'll put it in the director's report for next week, but we have a survey for trails that's currently active with a link on that page. And so if you would like to participate in that survey, it is live. You can do that as of today. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any other staff comments? Any questions for staff? Commissioner comments?
You want to start?
I don't really have any comments. Sorry. It's been a busy week. Kids are back at school. It's nice to see that stuff is flowing, I guess, as good as it can be with the changes that were made. Thank you guys all for being here.
Thank you, staff, for all the work you did, getting everything ready. That's always nice. Makes things go pretty smooth. I'm not going to be here at the next meeting, so just so everybody knows, but I'll be here after that. And then can we get an email about the October 8th? Just a reminder, maybe?
Yes, we can do that. We can also, in that email, give you the link to the survey, too.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Craig, thank you. Again, thank you very much. I'd like to echo my colleagues on the commission for your service and dedication. Thank you very much for all that you do. Yes, it's the season of change, the constant that never changes. And so I am glad to see that our community is going back to school and always in that perpetual curve of learning. As for Planning and Zoning Commission, I look forward to doing the people's work and approving these different cases that are before us and meeting the challenges that lie ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to comment on the CIP list. At one point, we had it recommended that it was taken out of the planning and zoning hands. And I have to say that I agree with that sentiment. I feel like it's really out of place for us unless, I mean, I think maybe their thought was we'd get a lot of public input on what the public would, and we could kind of serve as a screening agent, but otherwise it seems like we're not really getting any special information from the public. And I personally would like to see it just return to Borough Assembly oversight and not, they're the elected ones that have were elected to decide what was what, and if we're not really serving any purpose by screening anything, we're just giving our opinion on things. I don't know. I feel like it's just out of place personally. But that being said, I'm still going to do my part and do this list. So thank you. Can we, do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, Bronwyn.
There are no motions during a work session, so you can go ahead and adjourn it and state the time.
Oh, well, okay, thank you. I move to adjourn, even though I don't need to move. Can we adjourn? You guys okay with that?
I would love to adjourn.
All
Thank you.
right, we adjourn.
The work session adjourned at 7:14 PM.
Thank you.